They're not buying a 12 grand car, they're buying a £200 a month car.
How much is that Ford Focus there a month? So I can't tell you. I need to know roughly. I'm going to go to your competitor.
I don't understand as a car dealer why you would not want to offer finance.
There's two types of car dealers. There's proactive and reactive.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
That's how it is. This is John.
And this is Nick.
And this is
How It Is.
Today's guest is Ian Francombe, Commercial Director from Octane Finance.
Morning.
How was your journey down, Ian? You came yesterday, I believe, though, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I came down yesterday and it was a good journey, yeah. You know, all the way down from, I'm based in Kent, obviously Octane are based in Essex, but yeah, a few hours in the car, which was nice, beautiful weather as soon as I come over the bridge, you know, it's normal, you know, I think you booked it.
No, nobody come over the bridge, it starts
That's
normal.
So-
Living in Wales is like Blade Runner. It's always dark and it's always raining.
Yeah, and then you get all the confusing road signs that are twice as long as everywhere else. Yeah, I think as you put it, it's like someone's chucked a Scrabble board at it. Yeah,
It's just ridiculous.
but no, it's good. Yeah, good journey. Good. Yeah,
That's
nice
why they've
evening,
made
nice
it 20 miles an hour in Wales, so you can actually read all the road signs.
No, I mean that was the thing I was worried about because yeah, you're right. You turn down a side road and all of a sudden it's a 20, and you know it's like driving in London. I'm going to go home with about 12 points or something stupid. Yeah,
It's not good. It's just not good. No. So, give us your job title. What do you do at Octane?
So I've had a few different roles at Octane, as you guys are probably aware, but I'm commercial director. So what does that entail? I suppose essentially being sort of Dan Horner's right hand man and everything that entails. Anything and everything, but I suppose my main role now is talking with lenders, ensuring our systems are where they need to be. I suppose a little bit of looking ahead to the future about what's next. But again, just supporting the business in whatever it needs. So my role changed last year. I was sales director, and then we promoted internally Danny into the sales director role. So he looks after the kind of the field sales team on the road. And I look after the office because we've got office managers that do that, but I'm very much more on the lender side and the system side.
It's funny how you, as you get into business, and you guys have been around similar time to us actually,
yeah.
And you find that these roles have to evolve, don't you? Do you sometimes find it difficult to work out when to make that next structural change in the business?
I think for us, it's very much. I mean, whilst we want to try and plan forward, a lot of what we do based on market conditions and what's going on is reactive. So, one day you'll be working on one thing and the next day the FCA will make a change or something called, commission disclosure arrives, and all of a sudden your priorities changed from what you were doing into something that's far more important and needs to be sorted out.
So what do you see happening at the moment in the industry? What have been some of the changes you've noticed?
Oh, that's a broad question. I mean, if we're talking just within the sphere of finance, which is kind of our core, I think we're going to see more lenders going rate for risk as things change with the court case that's going on at the moment. A lot of things are going to hinge on that, from a compliance perspective, as you guys will know, how we present commissions and deals to customers. And again, I think, more dealers are going to be looking at different ways and different income streams as well. So I think they're looking at, different ways to bring money in if commission changes. I think, we're talking about, our lender's going to go fixed fee. Are they going to stay with the current model? There's so much going on, but a lot of what we're going to do is going to be reactive based on what happens between the 1st and the 4th of April, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what everyone has to be careful of is killing commerciality and
Yes.
commercial advantage. I think it's very easy for regulators to say this is what's fair and this is what's nice, but if you don't have functioning competitive markets, it's never actually a good thing for the customer.
No.
Because, even outside of price collusion, people will just choose to do something pretty much across the board. Everyone will make the same decisions.
Yeah, and I don't think, some of the, again, this is going to be probably an unpopular comment, but some of these claims companies out there, if they were to bring down a lender, and we're talking about someone like a Close Brothers or a Motonova, one of the big players, that just affects the market across the board. Costs to the consumer ultimately are going to go up. I mean, I don't think there's any two ways that's not going to happen. So I think the next year it's going to be a case of, there's going to be some new lenders coming to the party. We know that. There's already a couple that have come in this year. So that, again, will still put another spin on the market to make some lenders more competitive because their market share is going to be eroded by other new entrants to the market. And again, it's going to be fought around making access to automotive finance really easy for the consumer.
It's been seen in when they got rid of payday loans, for instance. that loan shark usage has gone up, which you don't see reported on, but of course it comes out in, people in really harmful situations. And I'm not saying that would happen in motor finance, but of course what does happen is that people cut corners. They'll move away from the FCA. You're already seeing it, aren't you? You see them, dealers not wanting to get authorised. What we obviously see that, but it must affect you too.
It does. I mean, look, coming from a dealer background, I don't understand as a car dealer why you would not want to offer finance at the point the customer walks into your showroom. You at that point you've got the relationship with your customer. You can drive that whole sales process around. Suddenly they're not buying a 12 grand car, they're buying a £200 a month car. But it's owning that as well. And I think there's a lot of dealers now. Maybe it comes down to maybe the training that's available in the marketplace. I mean, again, winding the clock back, when I did my business manager training, that was 2 week-long courses residential to kind of get your kind of qualification.
Wow.
But nowadays, there's not a lot of kind of training for point of sale finance that's actually any good.
You're right. They normally kind of promote one of the salespeople who
Yeah.
just puts his thing in the hat, isn't it?
Or if you've got a business owner who started the business themselves, which we see in our market, in your market a lot,
Yeah, definitely.
they may not have even come from a main dealer background. So there is that education piece. You're right, I think, about what the difference is. So, for instance, people are still like, oh, well, I'll be an IAR of someone, and that's fine. You can make an introduction, but you can't promote finance. You can't talk about it. You can't make it something that's really important. And I think maybe we need to do a better job, actually, of helping people to understand what finance can do for your business by being able to offer it earlier in the process.
Yeah, well, again, it's so important. It's so important for consumers, because as a car dealer, you've got 10 cars sitting in stock. If you've got a stocking loan, you've got the added pressure. You've got to turn that stock. So again, by offering point of sale finance, it's helping you churn that stock quicker, getting the money back in the bank. Obviously, you're earning from it as well. Like I say, I don't get why dealers want to do it. And the whole IAR process, I don't really understand how that works in a functioning dealership, because if someone walks in the door and wants to talk about finance, the conversation stops. And if that customer is finance driven,
Just give them a quote.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's very different in the motor trade from most of the sectors of consumer credit. So in retail, dentistry, any other area, vets, like anywhere really, finance is a checkout solution. It's just an alternative to debit card, credit card, PayPal, Apple Pay. Finance is just another option. The motor trade, it's so ingrained as being, even from a customer's point of view, that you go and you talk about finance, that it's very, very difficult to avoid that conversation. I feel like if someone walks into a dealership and says, how much is that Ford Focus there a month? And they might say to someone, I can't tell you, we'll just make an introduction to the broker. But if they say, well, I need to know roughly, I'm going to go to your competitor down the road.
I'm here now.
They're going to talk about it, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. That's the worry. Again, from your perspective, we know there's some lenders that don't want to get involved in it, but I don't see that as the future for what I call a functioning car dealer. You need to be able to talk finance, because it's all part of the,
Why wouldn't you advertise for it though? People you see on all these forums going, I don't get any people asking for finance. Yeah, because you're not showing that you offer
we
finance.
see it all the time, John.
If you show this car on your website for £149 a month, somebody's going to go, oh, I'll have that for that budget, rather than having £3,000 in your Skywalk.
Yeah. No, we see a lot. We see a lot of dealers that, we don't do a lot of finance. Well, it's because you're not promoting it. Or the other thing is that there's they're using maybe like Auto Trader, and then there's someone else that's doing the finance, and it's disappearing that way.
And all their commission.
Yeah.
And
So
if they go off to a broker first like that, they might end up at another dealer afterwards. They might have looked at your car.
That's the scary bit.
Then they get quoted and they go, oh, actually I'll afford a bit more, or I'll now go shopping. You need to be getting them and selling them on your business, not just your car and not just the finance. It needs to be a holistic thing.
And the too expensive as an excuse is just unbelievable. Oh, it's £605 a year now.
Yeah.
And it's like, really?
You do
There
one
was one
finance
guy
deal,
in
that's
the
paid for it.
Yeah, there was one guy on one of the forums, and he'd sold 20 cars on finance in 6 months. He said, I'm thinking of giving up my FCA license. It's not worth having because I'm paying £605 a year. And I said, So if you kept £1,000 in each of those cars, that's £20,000 versus £605, and you're complaining about that.
Yeah,
and it's like, that's one way to look at it. That guy said it.
That's the only way to look at it.
It's the only way to look at it.
Yeah.
I think some people, they think that the customer will buy that car regardless.
No.
And people either are going to use finance or they're not. It's not a choice of, shall I finance it? Shall I pull it out my savings? Shall I use a credit card? I think people are already in one of those camps. And therefore, if you're not offering finance, you're just cutting down your opportunities.
You know, over the years, I must have been in about 3,000-4,000 car dealerships, right? And there's two types of car dealers. There's proactive and reactive. It's as simple as that. And the proactive ones will always sell finance. Those guys are very rich.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
But it's doing the
Very
basics
rich.
really. It's doing the basics well as well. You know, making sure that this is old school, but making sure that every single car's got a finance quote in the window. It's the little things. You know, you'll probably hit 20% of people just by having a sticker in the window with a quote in it.
Yeah, we've built that into our compliance system, classified.
Do you find that it's becoming increasingly difficult though for dealers who do want to do the right things? Because there still seems to be a lot of people who can cut the corners. You know, so I'm talking, don't pay any VAT. You know, setting up from premises that aren't really suitable. No comebacks. You know, no website even, because they can just use the platforms. Are you finding that that's making your dealers telling you that things are becoming more difficult?
I think there is there's been certainly an increase in dealers that are what I would call kind of hobbyist dealers that have maybe got other businesses and they're playing with cars. And that's again what sets aside probably the dealers that want to do the right thing and the FCA part of it and get set up properly and get VAT registered and have a proper premises. But we're quite, I might say our dealer onboarding is tough, but we want a certain particular type of dealer.
Well, you're saying that about hobby dealers. The FCA now require 10 years past employment history, where it used to be 3 or was it 5?
5.
5. But if that person's been a carpenter for the last 15 years and now they want to become ABC car sales, probably no chance of getting a license then.
Wow.
Which is good.
Yeah, they at least want transferable experience, don't they? You need to have
Absolutely,
sold something that's relevant, been offered finance previously, or worked in a dealership of some kind.
I mean, we're certainly seeing more people coming out of main dealers starting their own thing. Again, that's probably being pushed by what's happening in the main dealer world at the minute, but we're seeing more, senior managers and good experienced people coming out and doing their own thing again.
That's where the appointed representative regime comes in, though, because the FCA, sometimes we get asked, what's the difference? Why would you go down one route or the other? And I think when someone hasn't got the experience, they probably can't set up all their own processes. That's where the FCA would prefer you go down the AR route, because we've got the processes, we can help them along, and they can almost learn on the job. So it gives an opportunity to people who haven't got that experience. Whereas if you've got the experience, you're more likely to be able to set that up yourself. So
I was going to ask, what makes Octane different from all the other finance companies out there?
So to understand this, can I wind the clock back a few years?
Please.
Right. So
John loves a story.
I love a story.
Yeah, he's sitting comfortably. I'm going to tell you a story. Right. So Octane was set up really out of a need and a change in the market. So two guys, Dan Kirby and Dan Horner, both doing their own thing. Dan Horner was within the finance sector, working for lenders and then working for a broker. And Dan Kirby had a very successful car dealer business in Essex. But they realised there needed to be some change. We were seeing more and more shifts to using pure technology to do underwriting and the customer journey. But we realised that there was, you need to actually get a set of eyes on some of these deals. So Dan and Dan were put together, and they formed Octane. And the idea was it was taking it back to that traditional, proper broker way of working. So every single deal that comes in, we'll cast a set of eyes over, just to make sure there's no silly mistakes. We see it, wrong postcode. All of a sudden, wrong postcode will flag up, and it will do something funky with the credit score sometimes. Incorrect income. We've had one this week, literally yesterday. Customer had said they were earning X, but actually they're getting more through a secondary income. And that is all above board. But all of a sudden, that's turned from being a decline to being a deal. And that's only because when we've got the information and we've looked at it, we talk to every customer. So with us, for us, it's the service level that we do. That's the big difference. It is back to the basics of proper underwriting, looking at a deal properly, and even having the conversation with the dealer. Look, we can get this deal done. Customer's got to put a bit more money in. You, Mr. Dealer, have got to put a bit of money into it, but we can make it happen here. So it's back to that sort of deal making process. So that's really kind of how it happened. It was a fact there was a gap in the market, and we took it and ran with it. And I don't think there's been anyone that's similar really to us since.
The dealer's broker.
The dealer's broker. That's where that came from.
I love that tagline. I think it's a really good tagline.
See, that sounds to me as an ex-business manager like a business manager's job. So would you almost describe that as it's almost like having a business manager that's not in your business?
Yeah, almost treat our team as your extra business manager that's going to work 7 days a week for you, and they've got access to a panel of 20 plus lenders. So yeah.
What does that make difficult? Because obviously not everyone's doing that. So why do you think other people do it differently? What difficulties does that bring?
So I think if you're trying to do it at a huge scale, that's where you need more and more automation, because you'd have to employ hundreds of people that all knew what they were doing to do that. So I think there are some huge brokers out there. We all know the names. Nothing wrong with what they do, but they're processing hundreds of thousands of props a year. That wouldn't be our core competency, because you'd need so much manpower to do it. Where we work really well is getting deals over the line that have been around the block already. So that's how I think, with technology coming in, it's how it scales. We're looking at various things internally to sort of do some of the donkey work and some of the chasing, but ultimately, if you're going to do it at
AI?
a huge scale.
Any AI?
Yeah, maybe a bit of AI going on shortly.
I love a bit of AI. He's gone down an AI rabbit hole, you have, hasn't he?
Yeah. There are even AI rabbits.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a buzzword, and we've seen a lot of third-party companies come to the market who are using AI within the industry. But again, like for us, if we can take away some of the mundane tasks like following up for driving licenses, that sort of stuff, where we're trying to contact a customer. If AI can look after that, which then gives more time back to our team, because essentially we're a service-based business. That's what we do. We're a people business, which sounds really corny, but that's the basis of what we are.
I think it's a common misconception with AI that it's going to take people's jobs away. I think it may prevent new jobs being available for like basic admin staff, for instance. But we always say this with our team is no one's taking your jobs away. What you want to do is give better quality work to people, rather than just doing the same repetitive stuff. You've just said it yourself. Yeah. It really is giving people better work to do. And I think in the future, if young people want to stand out, they need to, it's about designing the work, not doing the work. Is where the quality of staff is going to come in.
You sort of hit the nail on the head. For us, it's, our guys, they work phenomenal hours, but they're not going to be there at 9 o'clock at night to chase for, let's say, a driving license proof, whereas the AI could be doing that. And the customer will respond because, you know what, they're sat at home, I've got to send my driving license, these guys have asked for it again. So, I think there's massive benefits for doing a lot of that. And again, it will make our guys more productive, they'll be more focused on the deals. So that's really important.
How do you find the rise in direct-to-consumer bedroom brokers for customers?
Oh, okay. Oh, right. So I suppose we need to caveat this slightly, don't we, by saying that Octane's sister brand is Refinance Any Car.
Well, that's not a bedroom.
And that's very much, it's a very big bedroom, put it that way. It's a very big bedroom. Look, we are seeing more of them. They all, one thing I will say is they all seem to have a very similar lender panel. Yeah. And it's always the same, it's always the usual suspects. They're going to be in and out of the market, I would suggest, really quickly. Yep. I don't know how someone in that environment would deal with some of the things like large amounts of debit backs or SQ problems, because we've got a team of people that look after our compliance and complaints, obviously on top of having you guys as well. But that's a full-time job for a number of people in our business. So I can't see how you being on your own doing it. So you're doing the selling, you're doing all the admin, and you're doing all that behind the scenes complaints, compliance, running your business. I just don't get how it works.
And letting non-regulated dealers propose to them as well.
Well, yeah, we are seeing a bit of a rise of that as well.
What do the lenders think about this? Because they must know it's going on.
I think the lenders do know it's going on, without a doubt. We have we've got a policy internally. We would only deal with FCA regulated dealers or dealers that are ARs of certain companies. So I think it's gonna bite someone on the arse in a big way. I think very shortly. But I can't see why I kind of can't see how it's getting through. I know it's being disguised within the proposal chain. Whether that deal is coming from a car dealer. But what I would suggest, if you've got a car dealer that's got 15 cars in stock and they're all of a sudden doing 200 finance deals a month, something's not quite right there. Best will in the world. So no, I think lenders, if they knew, would have a dim view because the risk to them is so much greater.
So you think they don't know?
I think they probably know. They're just turning their heads. We've got some lenders that categorically, will not deal with this, and this. But it's going to be scary.
They're all unenforceable agreements. Every one of those is an unenforceable agreement.
And again, it's some of these guys that are getting paid. They're getting paid commission on top of it.
Yeah, and the FCA rules are very clear that you cannot pay a commission to someone who hasn't got commissions. It's quite cut and dry. One thing that continuously frustrates me is that we all know what's going on in the court system around commissions, but that's not the only point of compliance. It just seems to be the one that the ambulance chasers have picked up on at the moment. So sometimes then when we're like, well, also do this, and it's, oh no, we're too busy with doing one thing, and you're like, well, it's really not that difficult to just be compliant. It's like putting your finger in one hole and something coming out the other. Just buy another fucking bucket that hasn't got holes in it. Do you know what I mean? It's not really difficult.
Again, I think people at the moment, especially with everything that's going on, I think you'd want to be anyone that's in our world. In my mind, you need to be kind of sort of whiter than white at the minute, because you don't want people coming in and especially car dealers. If the FCA go and see a car dealer, it's going to be FCA trading standards. There's a whole myriad of different agencies of people that are going to go and want to have a look.
But you know what? The FCA aren't going to go and look. This is the truth, and they should do. You say this all the time. Realistically, if they picked on someone smaller, not because we want someone small to get picked on, but the small guys would realise they still have to do things correctly. But the FCA aren't the risk. It's the claims management companies.
Yeah.
So what's going to come out of the Supreme Court will be, whether it's direct from the court or it's from the lenders, there's going to be a point in the sand. You've seen it in your own trading agreements where the lenders are now like, you're jointly responsible for what goes on. The lenders are on the hook currently, but they won't be in the future. The claims management companies will be able to go direct back to the dealer for instance, not doing an informed commission disclosure, or for doing an unenforceable agreement, making an introduction. And the lenders, even if they go to the lenders, will have terms that say you're jointly on the hook. Forget the FCA. The risk is always going to be the ambulance chasers.
So I think again, we've got huge change in the next 2-3 months, and also the other thing we're going to see every single lender is going to have a slightly different take on it potentially as well.
I just see it with the claims management companies being a house of cards. I think once they get their teeth into this, I think it's going to be bigger than GAP. It's going to be bigger than PPI. It's going to be bigger than commissions and.
Well, obviously the FCA have come out and said they'll put an official redress process in place, which is good. I think the key question that people are asking is, where someone's signed a letter of authority with a claims management company, will the claims management company still ask the customer for the percentage of what they claim, even if it's direct from the lender? And that's going to be very interesting, because these claims management companies are being funded often by big American banks and funders to buy the leads, and everyone needs to get paid. And if the FCA try and cut that out, they're still going to want to get paid. So that's going to be the next fall.
I think you're right. I think when the FCA get involved, if they do their own redress system, I think you're going to see there's going to be a whole load of pain in that claims management world.
And then you've got to ask the question, is that treating the customer fairly? Because they thought that was the way to make a claim through a claims management company. They've signed a letter of authority. If they're then said you can go direct back to your bank, your lender, is it fair to then go, well, you've signed an agreement that says you've got to pay us a percentage? Well, the claims management companies will argue yes, but I think if you see what goes on in the rest of financial services, it probably wouldn't be seen as acceptable anywhere else.
Like I say, it's going to be for the court to decide on the 1st of April, April Fool's Day as well, which is a
Do you know, I didn't even notice.
yeah,
that.
mad day to go to court, isn't it?
So what other challenges do you guys have at Octane?
Challenges we have. Look, it differs day to day, right? You know what our trade's like. So obviously, we're always looking for. I suppose for us, it's about. We always take it back to the dealer. So for us, it's always how do we get quicker for the dealers? How do we provide a better service? What does our lender panel like? Is our lender panel diverse enough to cope with everything that's happening in the market? As dealers move to maybe selling slightly older cars, as cars have got more expensive, have we got the products to fit with it? So, obviously everyone's familiar with HP, but PCP is now featuring more and more heavily in the used car market, and not just in the premium sector. I'm talking about your run-of-the-mill cars, where you've had price increases, stock shortage again, big issue at the minute for dealers.
Really?
So finding good quality stock. I've had a couple of conversations this week with dealers whereby they're not looking to increase stock levels; they're just looking to buy the right things to retail. But I suppose challenges-wise, again, it's how we implement tech across the business. It's how we react and speak to our dealers. It changes day to day, John. You should know this. And again, and of course, we've got a team of people. So we've got a whole, we've got a team of people on the road, our sales team. We've got a team of people in the office. There's always a dynamic as well that goes on with that. But no, we're really.
You're saying that staff are a pain in the arse? Is that what you're saying?
I was going to say that. It's normally me who says that.
No. Do you know what? The Octane, the team that Dan's built is solid, really solid. Some companies, and again, if you've worked in the motor trade, if I say to you, you've got the service department and the sales department, that whole thing,
and then parts,
and parts, parts and sales admin is another thing, right? Yeah, don't talk to the sales administrator on a Friday afternoon for the third invoice or whatever it is. But no, we don't have any of that. Across the business, it sounds corny, but it is one team.
You seem to have a great culture in the office, or certainly through the social media. Even just the case that people seem to engage it and want to get involved. Do you find with the remote workers, it's harder to find people to fit into that culture than it is in the office?
Not really. So I mean, we've got sort of another sort of person we want, and very much, part of the kind of our interview process is they need to know about us and the business. For those of you that haven't watched our TikToks, I mean, TikTok's one thing. Our regular social media is on another level. Some would say possibly a slightly wrong level, but
well, as I say, right,
it's all about publicity, right?
I know, and I get our marketing girls just off camera here, and she always tells me off if I come up with something a bit too risky. And then yours on, what was it?
I think
Valentine's
John,
Day. I was like, take a bow, guys.
I mean, the lenders sometimes aren't happy about our social media, so I dread to think some of the conversations you have as commercial director with the lenders.
Yeah, we get calls from the lenders reps saying, "I've just seen your post,
I know what
fantastic,
that
awesome."
Would be.
Yeah. The most controversial one recently was we did a Trump one when just after Trump got shot, and that was.
You mean when he pretended that he got shot?
Yeah, and that was Make Finance Great Again. But that had a few that was a bit Marmite. People loved it or they hated it.
That's the best way to be. You know what I mean? For me, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I want people to either love me or hate me. Mostly people hate me. But it's like, I don't want anything in between.
Yeah, but we want people, but if nothing else, they're talking about our brand and what we do,
exactly.
Right? On TikTok, we've got a couple of videos that are in excess of 2 million views.
Wow.
Right?
Crazy.
And nothing we do on there is about finance. It's very rare you'll see an Octane post that has anything to do with automotive finance. The guys that do our socials is a company called Fortis, really selfish plug there for them because they are fantastic. And they specialise in social media, content creation. They're not just in the motor trade, they do a bit of other industries as well.
So you talked there about, almost like linking up with people. Have you found that that's been one of the key ways to grow the business to where it is now? And why do you think that some people almost try and keep to themselves in this industry?
So again, obviously you guys, your whole slogan, caring, not scaring, right?
Yeah.
We have the same mentality internally as well. We've got a carefully chosen bunch of other very like-minded companies that we have as affiliates. Obviously, you guys are one of them, and the idea behind that is it's giving the dealers what they need. We have so many dealers that come to us that need extra help with things. So our kind of aim was, let's go out and we'll partner with the right firms to help those dealers grow. So obviously with you guys from a compliance perspective, with people like DealerKit for DMSs, with 67 for websites, logistics from a perspective of dealers getting legal help, Fortis for marketing. So, all of those, if everything comes together, we build this really cool little ecosystem to develop those independent dealers who haven't got bottomless marketing pockets. They haven't got the same power as the big brands have got, and they need. And again, we see people that go off and they'll go and get, let's say for instance, they go and get a website built by an independent company that's not automotive, and then they can't do half the stuff they need to do. It doesn't talk to anything. Whereas they could go to an automotive specialist, probably pay a lot less, and have the knowledge that as things change within the industry, that site's going to evolve and make their life easier. It's all about, using automations and things like that to make your life easier, to take the mundane stuff away. But that's why the affiliates are so important. And again, and we'll put this out here now, we don't take a penny from any of those affiliates. It is literally, those affiliates offer cracking service. There might be some special deals you can only get by being an Octane dealer.
Yeah.
So again, it's trying to give those dealers a bit of a leg up and a bit of a benefit.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. It's all about, for us, the more cars that dealer's selling, the more chance we've got to finance them. So selfishly, if you've got a dealer that's doing everything really well and they're selling loads of cars and they're buying the right stock, it's happy days for us as well, right?
So what does the future look like for Octane?
World domination, Nick.
World
World
domination.
domination.
So what country are you going to next then?
Well, yeah, that'd be great. I think Octane Barbados has definitely got a ring to it, hasn't it? Yeah. So no, really, really true. This it's still about constant growth. We've still got some areas in the UK where we don't have good representation. So it's looking to plug those, looking to add probably some extra field sales people in areas that we know are really heavily populated where we can do more. The future's bright,
Orange.
Well, I was going to say purple. But no, I think there's going to be so much more change in the market that, like I say, it's just going to be a case where it takes us. I don't think there's any hugely crazy ideas that we can discuss on this,
But you've got some.
there'll be stuff coming. Yeah, there'll be stuff coming.